Well, summer is coming to an end, and that means kids will be going back to school. That also means school zones will be in full effect. The RCMP want to remind everyone that there will be a lot more foot and vehicle traffic around schools, and it's important to be aware of the limits.
Encourage everybody, when you're in a school zone, to definitely slow down to that posted 30-kilometer limit. Your reaction time definitely increases when you get over that limit. So slowing down really does put the safety of our children foremost in your mind.
Along with following the posted school zone speed, school bus safety is also something that is extremely important. Many kids rely on it to get them to and from school. Ignoring the rules could come with a fine.
You might not see them, they might just be hiding in front, so please slow down, do not pass that bus. If you do, it's a $500 fine plus a very hefty amount of demerits. So we just remind everybody that school zones are important, as well as school bus safety.
Most schools will start up on Tuesday, September 4th after the Labor Day long weekend. Well, one of the big stories you've heard about in Alberta over the last few years is the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Lac La Biche County Mayor and the Alberta Municipal Affairs Minister sat down with Boom 1035 to discuss how that will help the oil sands and economic development as a whole.
The Premier has been pushing on this incredibly hard over the last few years. Behind the scenes, a lot of work that's been done by her and Energy Minister Margaret McCuaig-Boyd and their staff, pushing the feds, bringing them together with Kinder Morgan, talking about this, and they've had some pretty late nights trying to get this stuff done, and there's a lot of stuff that I think the public doesn't realize we've been trying to do behind the scenes, and now we've just won another court battle, 17 out of 17. We're going the right way. I mean, we want to get it done safely and effectively, and I think that's part of the messaging, right? I'm from BC originally and grew up in forestry and know the resource sector and understand, when we have one partner, it can hurt us, right? And back in the day, the U.S. didn't export their oil, but once they started to, that got really tough on us, and we're selling our product for a discounted rate, and that's not acceptable. We have the best industry in the world right here, the safest, most environmentally sound. The technology we use here, people said we couldn't get it done. Well, we did it, and we transport our people all around the world in our technology. So, Trans Mountain's big. We need to get that done. We need to get our product to market, so we have jobs not only in Alberta, but across this country, and by doing that, then we're getting it done instead of some of these countries that don't really care about their workers, don't care about the environmental standards, right? And that's a big one. And so a lot of our discussions with BC kind of have been about that, saying, hey, we totally understand where you're coming from on the environmental side, 100%. Nobody wants to see an oil spill, but you know what? These pipelines, and this pipeline in particular, is probably going to be the safest one that's ever built, just because of our technology. So,
Okay. And another infrastructure we have going through this community is the railroad. It's been here since 1916 and has been quite crucial and may play a bigger part yet in terms of moving goods back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting you bring that up. I used to work on the railroad when I was going to university. Pretty tough, swinging a hammer, tough, hard job, but the railroads are something that sometimes we forget about. I mean, they go to all these little small communities. The farmers transport all their goods on there, and when we're bringing in, for example, even with the new renewable energy stuff that's happening around the province, the stuff is brought in, the big windmills are brought in on rail cars, things like that, right? So rail is still incredibly vital, and I think that one of the things I've heard for years is, why fix it if it ain't broke? I mean, the railways work really well, and I think we have some opportunity there to maybe do a little more with some of the agri-food industries that are starting up and different markets that we can reach with that. I mean, the railways they're going to be playing a big role for us for a long time to come.
Oh yes, they have.
Rural communities in Alberta have started hearing a little more about how the provincial government will be investing in them. One of those ways is through the Municipal Sustainability Initiative. Once again, here is the Lac La Biche County Mayor and Municipal Affairs Minister with what that entails going forward.
When you talk about different funding streams, I guess there's, in the province, in particular through municipal affairs, is the MSI, which is the Municipal Sustainability Initiative. And that's money that's allocated to each municipality based on its roads, education, property tax, and population. And you know, it's a formula that was brought forward about 10 years ago now, I think, not quite, but almost 10 years ago, I think now. And it was, you know, worked on in consultation with people in the municipalities and the associations to try to get sustainable funding. Right? And initially it was only supposed to be 10 years and it's supposed to be a kind of a short-term thing, but we've really realized that this funding that the municipalities count on every year to come through helps things, a lot of things in their areas, from infrastructure, you know, roads and bridges, to water, wastewater, which is maybe not very flashy, but incredibly important to our communities, right? We always want to make sure that we have that water turn on and our toilets flush and things like that, and clean water, right? MSI helps with that, and it also helps with things like recreation centers and things like that. And I think it's something that you know, that the municipalities need to understand, the residents out there need to understand, like, how the partnerships work with the province and with the municipalities. A lot of times you hear about the big cities, right? And you hear about transit, and those are huge projects a lot of the time. But there's a lot of little ones that happen in our smaller towns and rural areas that are because of MSI. And I think it's incredibly important for me to find a long-term sustainable solution for our municipalities. Right now it's about $1.2 billion a year that we give out to the municipalities, and even through the tough times we made sure that the municipalities had the money because we knew that they needed it. And you know, now we're going to sit down with the municipalities and say, okay, how does this look going forward? How do we do this and make sure that, you know, during budget time, it's not gone overnight. You know, you have something that you can count on, and that's something that I would like to do and make sure, as Minister of Municipal Affairs, it's important to me.
When you talk about the money that's used, when you touched on recreation, you touched on roads, our wastewater is one of the most advanced. So we've used all that in this area.
Yeah.
Our MSI went out to building the Bolt Center. So we've used all that kind of funding, and it's definitely a lifeline for a lot of the rural areas, which have large infrastructure deficits, especially if you're an old community. Your water and sewer is 50, 60 years old. We have pipes in the ground that could be wood with wire wrapped around them, you know, or make sure and we have to protect our water source, which is our main, one of the biggest lakes in the province.
All right, if you love Ukrainian food, Glendon has you covered with the 27th Annual Pierogi Festival. And our Justin Marshall went down there to get the delicious details for tonight's What's Happening.
Hey, I'm Justin Marshall from Cool 101.3 with a look at what's happening around the Lakeland. Today, we're in Glendon, Alberta, where the 27th Annual Glendon Pierogi Festival happening on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Pleased to be joined with the Mayor of Glendon. It's Laura Paperny. Miss Mayor, 27th Annual, how does this just keep growing each and every year?
It's due to our wonderful volunteers, our CAO, and our community groups. Everybody helps out.
This is amazing. So many events happening on Saturday. We got the John Appleton Band. There's a vendor market, pierogies, of course, a pierogi eating contest, hockey tournament. We also got a beanbag tournament, the church selling some pies, so many things.
And there's also, new this year, you can have your chance to win 24 pierogies.
That's really cool. And also, you said that brand new this year is the hockey tournament, as well as the street hockey and beanbag tournament. How did those come about?
That is due to help from our Glendon Minor Hockey. They had a wonderful suggestion, and they're holding that event.
And the pierogi eating contest, like, do you guys have like the same winner every year? You know, those 4th of July contests that the same guy wins every year?
It seems to be Mike Kriviak, counselor for MD of Bonneville. He's quite good at winning the pierogi contest.
If you have an event you'd like to feature on What's Happening, please email Justin at 1013coolfm.com.
This is Newcap Sports.
Well, during the intensity of the CPCA finals, an aspect fans will often overlook is the performance of the Outriders, bringing up the rear of every heat. And on Championship Sunday, 2 veterans of the game were given an emotional goodbye from the audience and their peers for their many years out on the track. Our Josh Ryan has more.
There's a horn, and they're off a quick start.
Galloping down the track has never gotten old for Eric Perret and Sandy McKenzie, even as they rode in their final CPCA championship.
It's the adrenaline rush when that horn goes and you jump on the horse and you come out of that infield, and it's a great feeling.
Perry got started in 2011 with Chris Molly's outfit, but is now stepping back to spend more time with his wife and children.
We've got 3 kids now. We just had our 3rd child at actually the Sunday of Calgary Stampede. Their baby girl came. I want to be able to make sure I can give 100% at everything, not just 50% at a few things, right?
During the awards ceremony, the two had the stage to themselves, with the biggest gesture coming from the drivers and fellow outriders. It's a reminder of just how special the community in chuckwagon racing is.
It's a good life, yeah. You raise your kids around the wagons and stuff, and it's like one big family. Everybody kind of knows your kids, and they look after your kids. It don't matter where they are and stuff. It's just been great.
Just coming back to the barns after the races, you had a good night. You know, it's a good feeling. It's just kind of like, you know, winning a hockey game. After the game, you sit around in the dressing room with the guys, and you know talk about the game, and you feel like you're on top of the world, right?
McKenzie is especially grateful that he was able to race alongside his son for several years.
We always got a little competition. I kind of look back at him, and he looks back at me, and we rub each other after. Oh, I beat you out of the barrels and stuff like that. It's good, yeah.
Both men will still hang around the CPCA scene as onlookers rather than participants, and while Perry says there's no chance of a comeback, he could make a special appearance for the Mollies.
I always promised Chris and Wendy that I would come with Caden on his first ride, which he's 14 now, so he'll be another couple of years when he can start out riding, so maybe I'll be back then.
At the wire, it will be Bell with Eric Perret.
Josh Ryan, New Cap Sports.